Leadership is what makes the difference. And organizations that know the difference between leadership and management are organizations that achieve greatness. Because a lot of organizations I work with think that management is leadership, and it isn't. Management is directive. Management's a clipboard and a task list. Do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. Leadership is connective. How do you connect with folks? How do you get folks when the phone rings at 4:30 and they walk by your desk and they hear you talking about something that's important? Leadership is when they execute an about face, they go back to their desk, put their briefcase down, pick up the folder they need, and they're standing in front of your desk when you hang up the phone going, what do you need? If you don't have leadership, they keep walking at 4:30. Reality, they figured out it takes 7 minutes to get to the parking lot, so leave at 4:23. So those are the three things, the three questions I've asked and answered for you. Who am I? What am I going to talk about? And why should you care? And I think that's pretty critical stuff. And it's small, but it's not unimportant. Now, I got good news and bad news about leadership. Okay? Good news. Leadership is not complicated. It is not complicated. It is taking the time and being willing to connect with people and extend yourself to connect. That is not complicated. And when you talk to folks who are frustrated with their leaders, they don't come at you with their complaints aren't full of long laundry lists of things. They go, if they just care, if they just talk to me, if they just tell me what's going on. So I found over time, 33 years in the Army and I'm now almost 9 years in the corporate sector, I found it's not very complicated. That's the good news. Here's the bad news. Bad news is it's hard. It's hard. You got to be consistent, you got to be persistent. You can't sit there and walk in and look at your executive assistant and go, Monday, Wednesday, Friday are my leadership days. Tuesday, Thursday sucks to be you. You really can't do that. You got to be a good leader, and you got to be a leader every day. And when the heat's high and the pressure's on and the outcome's uncertain in your organization and people are under stress, is when you have to be, as a leader, at your best. I mean, when it's 70 degrees out and there's 3 email messages in your inbox and the only frustration you have is your chief financial officer keeps coming into your office saying, I don't know what to do with all these members and I'm not sure what to do with all this cash. Okay, leadership's pretty easy then. It's not very hard. It kind of falls in the don't screw it up category. But when the heat's high and the pressure's on and the outcome's uncertain and folks don't know what to do, that's when leadership gets tough, and it's supposed to. If leadership was easy, we'd contract it out. Why do they work for you? Why do they get up every morning, clean themselves up, come into work, and decide to bask in the glow of your charisma every day? Why? My father was an Irish immigrant from County Sligo, Ireland. So was my mother. They came to America. People look at me and go, why are you from New York City? The boat stopped there. I didn't get a vote. That was it. Dad didn't ask. Is this okay with you? It's like, that was it. And my father figured out very, very quickly with an 8th grade education that he wasn't going to get a seat on the New York Stock Exchange and no big industry was going to hire him. So you all familiar with the TV show Flip This House? My dad got on to Flip This Bar and Restaurant. And he would flip a bar and restaurant all the time. At one point, he had 6, 7 places in New York City. I was the oldest of 4 boys. My dad's hiring philosophy was, I would rather breed my help than hire it. And so I started. And I'm mopping floors in Bowles' bar. And one day, I'm 16 years old. I still remember it. I'm on 39th Street between 5th and 6th Avenues, and I'm mopping the floor for about the 300th time. Never one time working for my dad did I ever do anything to standard. Ever. Ever. Hardest working man I ever saw in my life. Ever. People see me work hard in the Army. They go, what? I say, well, you didn't see Jimmy Bowles. I mean, my dad outworked anybody I ever saw. And my father leaned over the bar, looks at me as I'm mopping that floor, and he says, Vincent, you better do a good job there. This is all going to be yours someday. And I remember leaning over to squeeze that mop, and I said to myself, Jesus, Mary, and sweet St. Joseph, I got to get plan B. Now, after you're laughing, let me go back to the question I asked you. Who works for you? Do you know if you're their plan B? Do you know why? Because knowing that story forges that connection, begins that connection. So who works for you? So people want to be well led. And people will go to organizations because there's this myth that people leave organizations. No, they don't. People don't quit General Motors. People don't quit IBM. People don't quit your credit unions. People quit you. They don't want to work for Joe. They don't like working for Mary. They don't like the way you treat them, so they leave you. When you ask somebody, why don't you work with them anymore? They don't say, because I looked at the balance sheet of the company and I look at the way they're strategically structured and I don't think that's a good idea. They usually say, I went in to work with Joe and he didn't treat me right. So there's plenty of information about how to lead and people want to be well led. Third reason it should be easy. Leaders normally, usually, unless they were moral sorry dogs, usually want to lead well. I mean, I live in the state of Alabama now. And regardless of your athletic allegiance in that state, which is a big deal, okay, Gus Malzahn at Auburn and Nick Saban at Alabama, when they're putting on their appropriate colored golf shirts and getting ready to go talk to the team in the locker room, they are not looking in the mirror saying to themselves, yeah, I can feel it. This year, this season, 2 wins, 12 losses, yeah! So there's plenty of information, plenty of options about how to do it. People want to be well led and they want it. And leaders want to lead well. Well, Stevie Wonder can see this. I mean, this should be easy. But it isn't. I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you the reason it gets hard is because we think about leadership in terms of what works for us. What butters our biscuit, as they like to say down south? What works for you? And in reality, if you want to be a truly effective leader, you got to think about what works for them. And it may not be what works for you. That's the biggest challenge with millennials. They got all these myths. I hear people, oh, these millennials, these this and that. And I go, shut up. You were a millennial once too. Ask your parents. My mother and father, 1964, lying in bed looking at each other saying, my God, we have failed. He stays on the phone all day and he listens to the Rolling Stones. He doesn't like Perry Como. What's his problem? These kids are different. Duh, so were you. The difference is we allow technology to stop us from forging a connection with them. So you got to get over that. Because that doesn't change, because they want that connection. They just have a couple of different control mechanisms that you got to work through. Now, what's it like, you may have seen this, what's it like when a new boss walks in the front door? Get off your Facebook page, quit Twittering, quit looking at Hawaii pictures, you know, whatever. You know, it's just like that. I knew that. I knew brand new battalion commander, I walk in the front door, hey, battalion, everybody's going to explode, work's not going to get done for the next 10, 15 minutes. I didn't want that. So I knew where the back door was of the operation shop. So I came in the back door. It's an operation about the size of this stage. Everybody working, about 10, 12 folks working. And I'm standing at the back of the operation shop, and nobody's noticed me, and I'm just watching. And you can just tell, can't you? Walk into some of your branches and you go, whoa, these people got it going on. Other branches you walk in and go, nobody may get served today. You with me? You seen that? I'm watching this operation shop and they are clicking. Efficient, effective, intense, but efficient, effective, they're making it go. So I'm watching that. Now, I had a pet peeve when I was in the Army. And it was if the phone rings more than 3 times. I get a little antsy. And one of the reasons probably was when I was getting raised, my dad was in the restaurant business, somebody's making a reservation, you don't answer the phone, you don't get paid. So I got like kind of intense about that. And when I was in the Army and I'd go traveling around and I'd be deployed, if I couldn't call back to my headquarters and get an answer, I'd go, okay, if I can't get an answer, who else needs support that's not getting an answer? So it's always been a thing with me. So I'm there in the operation shop. This is 1993, pre-voicemail days in the Department of Defense. And I'm standing there watching, and everybody's working. And I'm at a desk, and the phone in front of me starts ringing. There is nobody available to answer this phone. They are all busy. And we're going to miss somebody who needs something. I'm a helping kind of guy. Ladies and gentlemen, 701st Maine Support Battalion, this is Lieutenant Colonel Bowles. You have the Support Operations Shop. Can I help you? Oh, God. Oh, nervous. Poor kid probably wanted Corporal Jones, Private Smith. They got Colonel Bowles on the phone, for God's sake. This kid's probably never met a colonel. It's happened before. I say, hey, man, I was just going by helping out. I was picking up the phone, it rang. Just tell me what you need, and I'll get you to the right place. Nervous. Hey, I've done this before. Look, man, buddy, I want to talk to you about as bad as you want to talk to me, okay, because I'm new here, too. You just tell me what you need, and I'm going to get you one of the people here who can handle it. I heard him screw up his courage over the phone. He finally says, sir, this is Private First Class Berger. I'm supposed to call the operations shop whenever Colonel Bowles shows up. Really? Stand by. Our sergeants have this spidey sense. They start going, and Master Sergeant Cheney finally turns around and goes, sir! I say, hey, Cheney. Yeah. Berger wants you to know Bowles is here. Now, that's pretty funny. Yeah. And you're getting a good laugh out of it. Yeah. And now we're going to talk about how come it's not funny. And now we're going to leave the lesson with you. How dare they? My government had determined I was fully qualified to command and train and lead those soldiers and take them to combat if I needed to. I'd bring them home safe and take care of their families. And somebody in the organization that I've been in charge of for about 30 days determined that the organization needed to be warned about and protected from me whenever I went around. Now, some of you are very nicely, naively rolling your eyes inward and going, oh, Bowles, come on, get real. That's the way of the world. That's the way it goes. You're pretty naive, General, if you think that. And you can have that opinion. You can feel that way. If you can answer one question that nobody, not even Berger, nobody since 1993 has been able to answer. And here's the question. In the 2 minutes that phone call took, how many trucks did Berger miss? How many trucks did Berger miss? He doesn't know. He said, sir, they were going back and forth. I don't know. I was busy on the phone doing, you know, can you imagine when he came on duty that day? Okay, got to check trucks in, got to check trucks going out. By God, if the battalion commander shows up, that phone better be ringing. I asked Berger later, I said, Berger, you know, it took you about like 7-10 minutes to make that phone call. I mean, what happened? He said, well, sir, they told me to make the call. They didn't give me the number. He said, I was running all over the place trying to find the number. I finally got the number and back the phone. I went, and you answered the damn phone. I didn't know what to do. So how many trucks did he miss? How many times did we stop him from doing his real job that he knew was important, that he was good at doing, for some sub-optimized decision the organization had made? Leaders expect you to, the folks expect you as a leader to make decisions. They also expect you to be responsible for the decisions that get made. Next time you have a staff meeting, try this. Try this. Go around the table and ask, tell me about the decisions you made this week. You're going to learn something. You're going to learn something. The other thing you shouldn't do is don't ever ask people how you're doing. What do you think about that decision I made? Don't ask. Because they're not going to tell you for 2 reasons. One, it's a bit nerve-wracking. My boss is asking me how he or she is doing. What's the right answer? Second reason, they think you should know. They think it's why you're paying the cost to be the boss. They figure you should know already. So don't ask them that. Instead, ask them these 2 questions. What are you working on and how's it going? And then shut up and listen. You're going to learn something. You're going to learn a lot. Because if you've got people in the organization that can tell you what's going on and how it's going, you're on your way to being a pretty good leader. If they can't tell you what's going on, that's an indicator. If they can tell you what's going on, but they can't tell you how it's going, that's an indicator. And what you're doing when they're talking to you is you're asking the third question to yourself, which is, how can I help? How can I be value-added and help this person who's trying to move the organization forward? So establish structure, manage critical relationships, balance risk, and understand in making decisions, you're responsible for all the decisions that get made. Now, when you take over an organization, always ask folks that work for you, what decisions are you waiting on from me? I was in Iraq. I commanded an organization there, had 16,000 soldiers, had 27 lieutenant colonels reporting to me, subordinate commanders. I'd get out and see them. One question I always asked was, what are you waiting on from me? What decision are you waiting on? And the first couple of times I asked, they're all type A, aggressive kids. Oh, sir, we got it. We're all over it. Don't worry about it. Oh, we got it, sir. You got to be ready for that. First time you ask, they're not going to tell you. A third or fourth time, I said, what are you waiting on from me? Sir, since you asked. And I'd start finding something out that I needed to fix. So don't think just because you asked them once, how's it going? Or what are you waiting on from me? And they say nothing. Don't think you're off the hook. That hook never ends. Establish structure, manage relationships, balance risk, and make decisions. And make sure your folks know how you decide to decide.